Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series in Savitri. Savitri is the message with our beloved Alok. We are on page 3. Well, I'm going to start on page 374 because it's so beautiful. When he begins with O living inscription of the beauty of love. We'll start
in fact, that is the mantra after which the...
Exactly. Exactly. O living inscription of the beauty of love, mistled in aureate virginity, what message of heavenly strength and bliss in thee is written with the Eternal's sun-white script? One shall discover, and greaten with it his life, to whom thou loosenest thy heart's jeweled strings. O rubies of silence, lips from which there stole low laughter, music of tranquility, star-lustrous eyes awake in sweet large night, and limbs like fine-linked poems made of gold, stanza'd to glimmering curves by artist gods, depart where love and destiny call your charm. I think I'll stop there so we can...
So it's so beautiful. Several passages in Savitri. In Book 1, Canto 2, then again, here we see, then subsequently when she comes back from the quest, and then when she is growing up, we see how Sri Aurobindo describes the form.
Yes, as in a mystic and dynamic dance.
So generally there's been a tendency in us, I would say, misunderstanding of spiritual life, that it is dissociated from the form of things. But Sri Aurobindo once again brings back the ancient truth that the form is important to express the spirit. And when it doesn't express the spirit, it becomes, if I may say so, diabolic. So there is the significance of the form. And every aspect of human form carries its own meaning and sense. So the form carries a message, life carries a message. So message is not just the Vedas, they are written in the script of all this material universe. So he completely shifts us from our too much involvement with words. The moment we think of message, we think of words. Not realizing sometimes silence is a much more powerful message. So... just being is a message, your posture is a message, the gestures are a message, your being is a message. So all that he brings here in, using this one word, and we'll read it from, I think we'll go a little, so on page 373, actually it is literally when Savitri comes, he has heard the voice that the gods are still too few in human forms. And then, like an answer from the gods, Savitri walks in. And there again we see it describes when she walks, her raiment, how she enters the hall, and as she enters, her apparel, everything it describes. And then when he sees her, suddenly he sees that this is not just my daughter. This is none else but the Divine Mother who has taken a human form. It's one of those beautiful revelatory moments that come. And this is unparalleled, but I am reminded of, this significance of form in Ramcharitmanas, in Ramayana, when Rama walks into the assembly of King Janak, who has arranged a Dhanush Yagya. Whoever will break the Dhanush will marry his daughter. And it's a very difficult challenge to pick up Shiva's bow and to, thread it around. And as the story goes, that when he enters, his body, his form gives a different message to different people. So there are those who are very strong. Or all the princes who have come are very, strong and veer, and they are. But the moment they see him, they say, "Oh my God, he is the paragon of strength. We don't stand a chance." On the other hand, all the ordinary common folks, they look at him and they say, "What a tender beauty this is. Perfect for our daughter, for Janki, but such a tender limb, how can he ever ever even imagine to lift the bow?" And the demons, including Ravana, who is there in that Sabha, he looks at him and says, "Oh my God, he is death, none else but death incarnate, who has come to destroy me." And the sages and seers, they look at him and they bow down. They realize that he is none else but the embodied divine. And King Janak knows, smiles, that the one for whom I have waited for my daughter has come. So it's so amazing that our body, our form, this significance we have completely lost. Because, body is as if meant only for either misuse or it's a vanity. So here we see a description of that. Page 373. O Spirit, traveler of eternity, who camest from the immortal spaces here. He looks at her and he realizes, and so he is addressing her. Armed for the splendid hazard of thy life, to set thy conquering foot on chance and time. The moon shut in her halo dreams like thee. So looking at her, he knows that this is no ordinary soul which is going through the ascending curve of life. It is a descent. Someone who is already an immortal, and from there she has come. And Sri Aurobindo's lines are so wonderful. Always he combines two words so powerfully. Splendid hazard. So, this several places in nature's instruments, loiters, secret God, lurks. So many places he'll use a word which has a very different meaning and lifts it to a totally different
The divine
time.
lurking.
Divine lurking. So here we see splendid. Normally with splendid you think of pomp and show and something. Hazard. So splendid hazard of thy life. And why she has come? To set thy conquering foot on chance and time. She has come to take the challenge. Challenge of chance and time. Of destiny, of fate. This is the greatness of the great. The average person runs away from adversity. He doesn't want to take the challenge. He wants to escape somewhere, looks for an escape door. But the great are the ones who choose to go through that door of fire and come out victorious. Because thus alone can, they pay the debt of man. And thus alone can the path be open. A mighty... yes.
I'm just thinking how beautifully Sri Aurobindo puts words into Ashwapati's mouth, into Narad's mouth about Savitri,
Yes.
when she returns after having met Satyavan. In the beginning, Book 1, Canto 2, as you said,
Yes.
the issue, he describes her. He
Amazing.
describes
Superb.
her walk, her look,
A smile.
her smile.
Everything.
I mean, you can just read those few passages, and you are taken by this extraordinary beauty that Sri Aurobindo is able to present to us.
Satyavan, when Satyavan looks at Savitri.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
this is, we must understand, this is darshan. This is not just words which are weaving. This brings the being and persona of Savitri close to us. This is darshan. Literally, through the words, he builds a word body of the Divine Mother in all her, various states. Look here. A mighty presence still defends thy frame. He could see that presence around her, which is guarding her frame. Frame is the body. Perhaps, and now he starts, building the case. Perhaps the heavens guard thee for some great soul. There is somebody who is there to come in your life. So there is a presence guarding you, defending you. These two lines, when they combine, carry a very different meaning than the line taken in isolation. The heaven guards you for someone else. First is only the presence guarding your frame. And then he qualifies it, that perhaps thy fate, thy work are kept somewhere afar. Thy spirit came not down a star alone. And it's interesting because in the beginning, you see, when Sri Aurobindo describes Savitri, he says, the greatest, the strong are greatest when they stand alone. So she is described as somebody whom none can mate and none can match. And yet, her spirit has come not down a star alone. So
many do try to
yeah,
offer themselves to her. Some out of
Yeah.
ego, some out of anger that she's so great.
yeah.
There are many of
They
them.
come close to her, but
But
nowhere.
no.
So there's something very unique, of course, in this opens doors to, it comes a little later also, so we'll just read it there. Oh, living inscription of the beauty of love. Her body is the inscription of the beauty of love. Can you imagine, that a body can be made of the element of love? That's why now we understand, when we use terms like Shyama Sundar. He is Shyam, dark, and he's Sundara. So beauty was at one point of time, even beauty of form, it was so much emphasized in India. As I said, if you read the description of Rama, of Sita, and then subsequently of all these great beings, their physical form is described. And later on, because of the, Mayavad and illusionism, it all went into the background. So now it is even, I read some places, a horrible description, a kind of meditation. You must meditate upon your body as a dead corpse. So I don't want to name a great yogin, and genuinely great. So this was noted, asked to Sri Aurobindo that should I do this to cut off my attachment to the body. He said, I would never recommend it. This is not our path. The body is a living instrument of the divine. You can't turn it into a dead corpse. Well, you may find release, but this is not the path of release. It's the path of transformation. Release from the wrong attachment, from the false notions, release from all the misuses to which the body has been, prone. But otherwise, the body is an instrument of the divine. So this comes here. She is the living inscription of the beauty of love, missled in aureate virginity. What is aureate virginity? I mean, this is so wonderful. Virginity in the Indian sense was purity in this highest sense. It was not, at one place Nalnida writes something very beautiful, chastities of the mind, not just of the body. Not because physical body, now aureate, the highest possible, a body which is completely given, yes, golden, given only to the divine. It won't move without the divine command. It's meant for that. So, aureate virginity itself is, we have this conception of virginity which is very, very banal and carnal. But true virginity is to be absolutely pure and untouched in the consciousness. So, that's how the satis were. They were so untouched and pure in their consciousness, completely open to the divine. So, they were very few, but the power that they could. And that's how one understands, as an aside, the story of Ahilya. Because Ahilya, even in her, she is duped. She is a sati, but she is duped by Indra, who takes the form of her husband, Gautam. You know that story, no? And they sleep together. Now, anything wrong with that is the form of the husband. So, nothing wrong about as far as she has done. But the beauty was that you have to understand that form is not all. There are beings who can assume a form, but they cannot mimic the consciousness. So it's a story which takes you to what heights of understanding. It's not just about the form, it's about the consciousness. So here we see all this coming in Savitri. What message of heavenly strength and bliss in thee. So she brings a message. When we look at her, this idea of a woman being very frail and fragile is never an Indian idea. It never was. All the great Indian women, they fought wars. Kekai, she was actually, drawing the chariot of Dashratha, her husband. And when he is hit by a missile and almost falls unconscious, she saves him. That's how He promises that I'll give you anything. He says, not now. I'll ask you in my own time. So, such were the women, even those who didn't go for war. Look at, often Bharat's birth, Shakuntala. What strength! She goes alone with this boy in the court of the king and says, how dare you, this is your child. This strength, which is so much emphasized in the, story of Durga and everything, we lost that, when somebody started saying, Nari is abla, she is a weakling. So once she is a weakling, she needs a man's protection. So all these are completely, and thank God that these are becoming dated conceptions. They are all outdated now. Please. Men need women's protection.
No submissiveness, ladies.
Yeah. You should be so strong that men would need the protection. Mother at one place says, only thing that nature endowed man with a little more than a woman is physical strength. Everything else, and now even that is gone. So then he says, what message of heavenly strength and bliss in thee is written with the Eternal's sun-white script. Imagine the body. There is a message of the divine written in the body. And who will read this message? Now he says this message is for someone. One shall discover and greaten with it his life, to whom thou loosenest thy heart's jeweled strings. So there is a message. Just imagine, look at the whole scenario. That there is a message that the Eternal has written in a body, in a form. Somebody will meet her, to whom she will bear the heart. And he will read the message that this is the message meant for me. And that's how you see that love is born. It's something amazing. The whole dynamics is described so beautifully. Not like, calculations, attractions and all surface things. But that message.
How about standing arrested, luminous Satyavan?
That line where, he stands arrested when he could have turned away is exactly how things happened between Rishi Agastya and Lopamudra. But in the other way, so when Lopamudra actually was created by Agastya Rishi, he is the one who had, created her and told her father that when she comes of age, then I'll come and marry her. Because he couldn't have married just anybody. So when he goes there, so her name I have forgotten, there's some name of that princess. When she comes and sees Rishi Agastya, she just forgets herself. So that is Lopa Mudra. She forgets Lop. Completely she is forgetful of how she is standing, how she is. So that's how her name comes as Lopamudra. So this is one of the... So everything was given such importance. Gestures, postures, how we connect. It should be the spontaneous expression of the divine within. Look at this line, to whom thou loosenest thy heart's jeweled strings. So you have kept this love and beauty guarded for someone. I mean, this is such an ideal, even ideal of human love has been lifted to what heights in Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Oh, and now he's describing. Look, he's not, this is called Shringar Ras to its acme. Oh, rubies of silence. Lips that don't speak. So they are rubies of silence. Lips from which there stole low laughter. Music of tranquility. She would hardly speak. Yet time to time laughter stole from the lips. And what she spoke was, he's describing a voice. It's a soft, low note which filled the hearts of men with tranquility. Can we just imagine this? He's describing a lips. And then the eyes, star lustrous eyes, awake in sweet, large night. The brows, the lashes, the hairs, star lustrous eyes, awake in sweet, large night, and limbs like fine linked poems made of gold. All this we have read, no? Adaram, Madaram, sab all goes into the background. Adaram, Maduram is about that. You are so sweet, but here look at it, limbs. What are her limbs like? Poem stands it in gold. Poems means rhythm. And the highest rhythms that is possible were therein. There was not one fault in the design. Everything was so perfect. I remember, of course, with mother's form, just imagine two little stories. One was Surendranath Johar when he came here, Taradi's father, and he heard about Mother Sri Aurobindo. So he went to see her mother's darshan. You see that coming down the stairs and she stands. He says, when I saw her, his first thing was, never before such a beautiful form has manifested. He was captured by her beauty. My own little experience. First time when I saw Sri Aurobindo's bust in Calcutta Bhavan. I didn't even know he is Sri Aurobindo. I didn't know it is Sri Aurobindo Bhavan. I didn't know it's his birthplace. I had entered because I was loitering around during internship. Must be in 1982. And I entered I saw Nature's Art Gallery because friends wanted to go for a movie. So I was not interested. So I said, okay, I'll go back to. I love to walk alone. So I entered there. I asked them, where is the exhibition? It's all over. Anyway, I just casually entered the courtyard where you have Sri Aurobindo's Samadhi, the relics, and a bust of Sri Aurobindo. It's the birthplace of Sri Aurobindo. Strangely, it is not the relics and the Samadhi which caught my attention, but the bust. And I went near to see the bust. And the thought that flashed into my mind was, the most perfect human form ever expressed on earth. I don't know why. It's not like I'm a connoisseur of forms. So I sat down and meditated in some bliss. I went and walked out without asking what place is it.
Who it was?
Who was he? I didn't know this. He revealed and wailed. So later on I used to say, why did you wait? He waited till I got married, joined Air Force fully. Then he came. I said, this is not fair. I told him, this is not fair. You came to me, but you glimpsed. I felt so beautiful, sat down, meditated, walked in a trance of bliss. Literally a trance of bliss is the word I can say. And it was such a beautiful thing. I don't know how I walked back to the hospital. And I didn't even bother to see whose bust. I just thought somebody's bust. So, he puts a veil over you. He'll reveal only when the time is ready. And then the other was when Kapali Shastri goes to meet Sri Aurobindo. That is amazing. We all know about mother meeting Sri Aurobindo. That story is unparalleled. So Kapali Shastri asks time from Sri Aurobindo and Sri Aurobindo gives him the time at 3:30 because he was coming to Pondicherry. And that is the time he is also asked to give a lecture on the Vedas. What to do? So the lecture time got postponed. And then he goes to meet Sri Aurobindo. So he describes when he saw Sri Aurobindo. And he says, it looked to me that Lord Rama, Maryada Purushottam Ram, he had come alive, the perfect Aryan he could imagine. When he just came and he stood on the threshold and all that he told Kapali Shastri was, he told in Sanskrit, greeted him, and Sri Aurobindo also greeted him. Then he asked him to sit, he gave him some apple and he kept it. He says every gesture was, he had a feeling that all that he had read about the ancient Aryan gods, he looked like one. And Amrita, from behind, this is amazing. He wanted to have a glimpse of Sri Aurobindo. So I think it was Vara, or I may be wrong in the name, but one of them said, okay, I am taking food for him. So if you want, you can come along. So it's okay. So he knocks, opens the door. He knocked, yes. So then Sri Aurobindo came down, opened the door. Now when he opened, Sri Aurobindo's Bai then already turned and started walking back. And he had to keep the food there. And Amrita describes, I saw from behind Sri Aurobindo. And the way he describes that it was like, golden Purusha come alive. And that was the experience people had just with the form of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. It is not just a form. It was a form which was expressive of the deity within, and that's what we should be. This is the true change of form. That's why transformation, formation, transformation. The form itself must change. It's the last conquest. You can't leave it. It must change to express the divinity within. So we see this so beautifully. And what wonderful description. And limbs like fine linked poems made of gold, not joints. Limbs, linked. Look at the thing. Made of gold. Stanza to glimmering curves by artist gods. Each curve in the limb was the artist gods had made it. Depart. So now he tells her, depart where love and destiny call your charm. How different than today's times when, woman has to be in the house. Now times are changing because they've revolted, thankfully. Otherwise it used to be, father will find out and then he will catch and tie her like a cow is tied to the kuta. Literally this was the expression used, and this was called as something very great. Khute se bandh dena. Have you heard this expression? One of the crudest expressions. Khute se bandh dena was meant for marriage. That a woman has to be tied to her so that she doesn't run away. They don't know. She will run away with the kuta. Today's woman, she'll say, you tie me. See, I am now Krishna's child. Krishna ran away with the kuta, no? She'll say, okay, tie me with the kuta. I'll run away with the kuta. Following me. But this is how it was understood. But look here how he says, go and find your mate. You have to find the man of your destiny.
It was not so common in those days when he sends her all over.
Yeah, but this, if you read the Vedas, they speak about 8 types of marriage. And 6 were sanctioned by the society. And 2 were not sanctioned. So the 2 which were not sanctioned were kidnapping and drugging somebody forcibly into marriage. They were not sanctioned. Even if you apparently got married, it was considered null and void by the society. You didn't have to go and file a case. It was enough that it was done under. But among the 6 types, the marriage that is sanctioned in the Vedas, we actually find happening to Savitri and Satyavan. And that marriage is called as Gandharva Vivah. So Gandharva Vivah is a marriage where 2 people decide to marry, a boy and a girl, with no witnesses, no legal this thing, with no parental approval. They don't even know. And when 2 people marry in their, when alone, they love each other and they get married, it had the sanction of the Vedas. It was not regarded as, you have done a big sin or something. Of course, the highest marriage was not just a marriage of 2 beings, but 2 souls, and all the gotras and all this was seen. But here there was no caste, gotra, nothing was. So this was Gandharva Vivah. In Savitri, you will see actually Savitri Satyavan marry that way. But Sri Aurobindo has changed it into the highest form where he says the sun is the witness, because all this form had to be broken. They had become means for, all kinds of things. So here, depart where love and destiny call your charm. Venture through the deep world to find thy mate. Ever seen a father sending a daughter on such an errand?
Exactly.
Find thy mate. Even where there was Swamvar, like Sita's marriage is a Swamvar. Draupadi is a Swamvar. But even there, she's not going out to find the mate. But here he is asking. So, you see, this tendency, India is so multifaceted, so vast. It had kept in mind all the different possibilities of human nature and given. Now, why Savitri is being sent and not, as you rightly said, it was not the norm. True. Because he looks at Savitri and knows she is missioned. She is a mission child. You can't tie her to anyone. She is conscious. She is the one who must make a choice. She will find. So it's a different story altogether, and yet it had the sanction. He was not doing anything which was not in conformity with the society or the age. For somewhere on the longing breast of earth, thy unknown lover waits for thee, the unknown. This, line reminds me of that story mother wrote, A Sapphire Tale, where, this girl goes all the way and there is this, or the boy goes all the way and travels to an island where this prince is waiting for her. It's a beautiful story. And then the two come back together. This concept that, within a small little frame, what a vastness that story brings. And it is not a story. Whatever Mother and Sri Aurobindo have written or done, or it is going to be the new norm. That's why when people say, today's children are spoiled, I tell them, they have set a new norm. You can't help it. What the divine has set is going to be the new norm. And the divine knows better than us, million times better, what is needed for today's times. It may look hazardous, and human psychology describes all this, that when people enter into this state, they go through a subjective cycle where there may be risks and dangers, but mankind has to go through it if it has to evolve into a spiritual consciousness. You can't, otherwise it'll be all religion, force people to do this, do that through a code. So now humanity is being liberated from itself, and it'll explore the subjective spaces, make its mistakes, and discover its truth.
I'll carry on.
Yeah, please continue.
Thy soul has strength and needs no other guide than one who burns within thy bosom's powers.
This is so marvelous. How to recognize. So people try all those, what nowadays they do, Patri and all that. Patri is such a fallacious thing, because to start with, whoever documents accurately the time and few seconds sometimes alteration can completely change the horoscope, if at all horoscope is to be, So, it says, who will tell you? How will you know? He doesn't say, you must see that what's his salary, also take care of the looks, see what he is doing, lineage, nothing. He says your soul has the power, you need no other guide. Nalida was asked this question incidentally, because Nalida was told, go get married and come back. So he followed it, literally. He went, got married and came back. So people asked, she was moon goddess, Indulekha. So he was asked, how did you decide? He said, nothing. I went, I saw, I knew. As simple as that. I went, I saw, the Lord had sent me, so he had put whatever is needed. I went, I met, I saw, I knew, that's it. I got married. Now, human mind can never understand that there is a way of living which is so simple, so direct, so intuitive, and so true. So,
when
yes.
Mother told me that I must marry, I should have no doubt and no hesitation, I wrote to this young lady, some of you have known her, Annie, and I said, Mother says we have to get married. She said, okay. So I came there and I wrote, Mother, what kind of ceremony? Mother said the fire ceremony would be the best.
Yes.
And we had the fire ceremony. It was so beautiful. No formality, no people there, nothing. Just two of us in a fire ceremony and a Pandit.
And she has a fire ceremony. If you read her message on marriage, you actually see that fire ceremony is a symbol of this deeper truth of uniting around the fire of aspiration. Because that fire is a symbol of that. And I often say this union around the fire means who is at the center? Aspiration. Neither man nor woman nor parents nor in-laws. The moment you put them in the fire, they will get roasted. And if you happen to put and if you put yourself in the fire, be prepared to be roasted. The man who tries to be at the center of the family or in a relationship, he is the worst fool, because your life will be miserable. Nobody will listen to you. And you still believe that you are in the center. There is no more miserable situation to be in. So, be here, let the fire burn, and be around, organize your life around that. So it's so beautiful.
There shall draw near to meet thy approaching steps the second self for whom thy nature asks, he who shall walk until thy body's end, a close-bound traveler pacing with thy pace, the lyrist of thy soul's most intimate chords, who shall give voice to what in thee is mute.
So powerful. So this was the sense of complementarity, of complementary beings, of soulmate as it is called today. Of course, this word has very interesting connotations, so let me clarify. So somebody once asked me how to find the soulmate. I said, find the soulmate will come, leave the maid. But you'll go through, it's right now humanity is evolving. It has not reached that point where it can discover straight away. But Sri Aurobindo gave 2 conditions for discovering the soulmate. Not easy, either of them.
Answering soul might be a better term.
Yes, answering soul. Absolutely. Even answering limb. I do believe that there are affinities at every level. But Sri Aurobindo said first is complete freedom from desire. Sir, what are you saying, sir? Complete mastery over sexual impulse. So much of humanity will say, okay, we are happy with whatever. These are the conditions for finding a real complementary being. But they do exist, so we can't say that. But the chances of finding them is 1 in maybe 1,000. So, but they do exist. So he is asking her to go and discover that who will give voice to you. Means you are moved by the same impulsion, but one is the organizing power and the other is the one who receives or conceives, ideative and the emotional. This is a whole beautiful thing about a man-woman relationship that Sri Aurobindo very subtly and not so subtly reveals to us. The secret of man-woman relationship. So one is, man is generally more ideative. He lives in the realm of ideas. So he draws from the ideative world. And woman, she is conceptive. So she conceives them and organizes them. So you see, even in animal world, you will see all the work is done by the feminine. You'll be surprised. And in human world also, whatever people may say, man goes, earns, lives in a realm of ideas, but the woman organizes his entire life from the small details to everything else. This was the ideal. That because she has the organizing power. Why organizing power? She has the Jnana Shakti, Maheshwari. She has the strength, the Bala Shakti, Kali. And she gets, don't underestimate the power of a common woman. She has the Prema Shakti. She can harmonize, bind people together. She has that power within her. She can bind heaven to earth. She can bind, that's how, she connects all the different family members in India, you will see. Men are not bothered, but she knows how to really connect them. And of course, she has the Shakti which can enter into the details of material organization, where everything from where a thing is kept, whether it's clean or not clean, everything she can organize in every detail.
And then we have to remember Shakespeare's line.
Which was that?
Hell hath no power like a woman scorned.
Oh, that's an understatement. That you have to read the story of Kanyakumari. Burned the whole city. And she gets, angry. That's why intelligent people ensure that woman doesn't get angry. And if she gets angry, they bow to her feet and say, I am at fault. Don't try to, justify yourself and say, no, I am right. Be careful. And especially times are changing. Okay, so please read. It is beautiful. Yeah.
Then shall you grow like vibrant, kindred harps.
Wow.
One in the beats of difference and delight, responsive in divine and equal strains, discovering new notes of the eternal theme.
So there is such a beautiful, it's called in Hindi, I don't know the English word, must be Jugalbandi. When say a pianist and, not a pianist, but somebody who plays the flute and another on tabla or sitar, when the two, they are different notes and yet they are together. They are meant to... Synchronicity. Maybe I don't know the English word, but in Hindi it's called Jugalbandi. So that together they play. Each one plays, then together. So there is a difference. And yet one in the difference. So it's not that she has to think like him and feel like him. It's not annulment of individuality. But it's enriching each other, which is different than, annulling. And annulling individuality is a very dangerous kind of relationship. Anyone who wants you to become like that person, it's a very asuric form of relationship, where you completely want to annul the individuality and want the other person to think like you, feel like you, follow things like... It's not that. So beautifully every word. The lyrist of thy soul's most intimate chord. Okay. One in the vibrant kindred harps. One in the beats of difference and delight. So this difference is meant to add the joy of a relationship. It is not meant to, create noise and Belan and quarrel and all this. It's meant to increase the joy and delight by the difference. Responsive in divine and equal strain. So it's not like the difference is Uttar Dakhin and you do your thing, I do my thing. No. This is the divine strain. This is the common thing which, holds them together. And discovering new notes of the eternal theme. So they have to together walk into this great journey of life and discover and create new aspects, new wonders, manifest. They have to manifest. So that's why when the rishis were given a command which people often misunderstand, one of the first rishis after the pralaya, his name is Kardam Rishi. So God appears before him. He says, what is the command? He says, create offsprings. Now, if you look at it only this way, it sounds very strange. Of course, after Pralaya, it is understandable when there are just about 1,000 human beings on earth. But here, its offspring always invariably means new possibilities, new modes of manifestation. So together they can bring out new modes of manifestation. One through the ideative world, another through the manifesting world. That's exactly what you see with Mother and Sri Aurobindo. If you ever want to see
that.
Perfect relationship. All the dreams of Sri Aurobindo, I would say, and Sri Aurobindo himself has said something there, they would have remained dreams, beautiful. But for the mother, who the moment she came, she started manifesting them. The Arya came in, the new idea, Honesty Store in 1914. Then she goes and comes back. And the day she takes charge, look at it, everything that Sri Aurobindo has kept it there, she picks up and expresses it. So manifold activity.
Beautifully said.
And she said to Dilip Kumar Roy, when he had this problem between mother and Sri Aurobindo, she said, what else are we here for but to please Sri Aurobindo? Everything that she did was nothing else but expressing a truth that Sri Aurobindo had released in the earth. What a wonder of wonders it is.
In fact, he asked Mother, why are we here?
Yes.
That was her answer.
Yeah.
To please Sri Aurobindo.
So one of the things that happened very interestingly, because she started the playground activity, this context is important, because children had come and then the playground had started. Children came, physical education started, not playground came much later. So people couldn't understand that what is this, sports, this, that. So there are a number of letters where on one side, Sri Aurobindo clarifies that mother is not expecting or wanting everybody to start running and become a sportsman, or that, you will do yoga with that. But at the same time, because there were people who started revolting that this ashram is becoming something else. We should just be sitting and meditating, quietly going, eating food and coming back. This is the idea people have. Now with the coming of children, it was changed. So just to explain and bring home the point of the importance of the body, it is one thing which has been touched. Even in essays, early essays, you will see the body, the poems are there. But Sri Aurobindo wrote a series of essays, which was apparently for the journal of the Sri Aurobindo Ashram Physical Education Department. And when were they written? 49. They are the last essays written. And that they have come under supramental manifestation. He speaks about the divine body. He speaks about perfection of the body. He speaks about the necessity of sports. Because that was something which just people won't understand. So they thought the mother is doing something which... there are some people who still believe that, mother does something and Sri Aurobindo sanction. So when you read these writings, you see very clearly, there was nothing which it's understood, which didn't have directly the sanction of the divine.
I knew people who came and they saw this ashram. They said, what are all these departments and what is all this sports and these young girls running around in short pants? And, and one of them was a good friend of mine, Dimitri van Morenschild, who lived to 100 in the ashram. And Eleanor Montgomery, you might have heard of her.
I know, but maybe
she said to him, she was a long time disciple, and she would always sit next to mother in the
fashion designer, is it? So?
Yeah, she was made Fifth Avenue wealthy lady. Yeah, she said, at least look at mother once. He said, no, I'm going. I've had it. This ashram, there's nothing here. Departments and all of this. So finally she convinces him. And he goes to see mother playing tennis. And as she's playing tennis, momentarily she turns around and looks at him. And he says, I rose 3 feet in the air and I was hers forever.
Absolutely. Her Leela and everything, how she poured. So you see this emphasis, which is ancient Vedic times they used to. There was another, I think, was it Vidya Alankar or one of those persons who is a renowned Vedic author, not just a scholar. And he in old age had come here. And when he saw, he went back and wrote that, I felt so happy. I used to dream that one day we'll have the Vedic age India once again. But after he saw the playground and all this, he said, I was sure that this is the Vedic India which has started to, take roots and take seeds. So because this was there in the Vedic times, it's only now, all these, we didn't have many departments, but 2, man department and woman department. She broke all that. So beautiful. And this is going to be the new norm. Because whatever the divine has set his hand on is going to take shape. It cannot be, So she started in the kitchen, men cooking. And then later on somebody said, my wife doesn't cook or something like that. She said, I'm totally against women cooking for their husbands. Why should they? Are they slaves? Now, So now you see it, the norm, both come together and cook. Or sometimes the man cooks. But then she cooks because he says, you are no good, so let me just, And smart men deliberately, don't make it so good. Because see, a woman always adds that tender love, which, man's cooking is like, okay, it's edible. But whatever it is, the whole thing is she set a new trend, which is going to be the norm. Whether people like it or not, understand it or not, is irrelevant now. And I would rather say, better try to understand it.
There was one thing about Dimitri I forgot to tell you. Why did he come here? He read prayers and meditations, and he said, never have I read anything of such beauty. And I just had to come here and meet the person who wrote that.
Yes, amazing it is.
Yes. Maybe we could finish.
We can finish it.
One force shall be your mover and your guide. One light shall be around you and within.
Hand in strong hand.
Hand in strong hand, confront heaven's question. life.
What a expression of togetherness. Not weak hand and strong hand. Hand in strong hand. And you'll be moved by the same force. Not like... So here he is qualifying. There will be difference, but a common aspiration, common goal, common seeking, common
Uses
path.
the word confront.
Confront. And at the same pace. That's what she gave in the message on marriage. Walking hand in hand together at the same pace toward the same goal. That is what is the 7 parikramas. You can't run away. That, oh, I am going fast. You are tied. That is the beauty of,
Challenge the ordeal of the immense disguise.
This creation is a disguise of the divine. And you have to, go through that ordeal.
Ascend from nature to divinity's heights. Face the high gods, crowned with felicity. Then meet a greater God, thyself beyond time.
So all this, you meet, walk together, face the ordeal, take the challenge of life. And then these last 3 lines, ascend from nature to divinity's height. Let love not be a means for fall, but a means for ascension. Ascend. But it comes after the meeting. The two are holding hand in hand. Ascend from nature to divinity's heights. I would say, restore love to its origin, pristine purity. See, love is a force which requires that another. Otherwise, all of the forces can go directly. Face the high gods, crowned with felicity. Then meet a greater God, thyself beyond time. Namaste.